Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're delighted to be able to host the IELTS One Skill webinar. We're going to get the webinar content underway in just a few moments. So today we're going to be taking you through where IELTS One Skill Retake is available. We're also going to be helping you know how to best prepare for the single test and going through certain tips as well. So my name is Georgie. I work in the E2 marketing team. I'd like to take a moment to just introduce our speakers. But before we do that, we are really interested to know where everyone is joining us from today. So if you have a spare moment and you'd like to let us know which country you're joining us from, we would love to know more about that. And we can hopefully, give you a little bit of information about the country you're joining from and if IELTS One Skill Retake is available there. So we'll just wait a few moments, give everyone a chance to answer the question. Oh, okay, we've got someone from Uzbekistan. Thanks, Arbor. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, beautiful. I think maybe that's, 10 more seconds and then we'll share the results. We've got India, Bangladesh, Australia. Great. Another one from Prachi from Bangladesh, Bhutan. Oh, we've got such a great range. That's fantastic. Maldives, wow.
Oh, wouldn't you love to be in the Maldives right now?
Oh, yeah. We're all located in Melbourne, so we're such a cold winter now. Okay, beautiful. And let's share those results if we can. Beautiful. Okay, so beautiful. And Oman Muscat. Okay, thanks so much, everyone, for sharing that. Okay, beautiful. So I'd love to introduce our speakers today. So we have Andy, who is our E2 expert. So Andy is an English language content manager. She has a wealth of experience in content writing. She's also worked as an IELTS examiner for 12 years. Andy understands very well international students. She's worked as a teacher in Vietnam for 5 years and also in Melbourne teaching international students for 5 years. So welcome, Andy. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Georgie. Great to be here.
And also love to welcome Vincent. So we're delighted to be able to welcome Vincent today from IDP IELTS. So Vincent is the head of partnerships and customer support across Australasia and Japan. He has incredible knowledge about the IELTS test and he supports all the organisations that use IELTS testing. He's worked in lots of different roles from operations, marketing, stakeholder relations. And now at IDP IELTS, he oversees a team of workers who support test takers. So welcome, Vincent. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here presenting along you, Georgie and Andy.
Excellent. Beautiful. All right. So let's start our webinar. Andy, I think we have a few questions we want to ask Vincent, don't we?
We do. Yes, we have lots of questions. I suppose the most obvious question to start with, Vincent, is what is IELTS One Skill Retake?
Okay. I'll take you through a couple of key points I think that are important to know about IELTS One Skill Retake. So IELTS One Skill Retake, as the name says, is an opportunity for test takers to retake one skill of their IELTS test. When we talk about skills in IELTS, we test 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Now, we know that sometimes you may not get the results that you were aiming for in your test. And if that is the case, One Skill Retake allows you to retake one part of your IELTS test. So you can retake listening or reading or writing or speaking. Does that answer your question?
It does. So how would a student go about registering to just take one of the skills again?
So what is really important that you need to have taken a full IELTS test first. So students will need to book for their IELTS test. They need to complete their IELTS test. So listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And we know that the majority of people will get the desired score in their first test. If you don't get the desired score in your first test, that's when you can register for IELTS One Skill Retake. Now, there are a couple of key things that you need to watch out for or pay attention to when you want to look for IELTS One Skill Retake. So the most important thing is that you need to have taken the IELTS test on computer. So One Skill Retake is not available yet if you do IELTS on paper. So you need to have done your IELTS test on computer. The second really important requirement is that you need to have done your IELTS test at a test center that currently also offers One Skill Retake. And then the third requirement is that you must complete your One Skill Retake within 60 days of your original test. So if you're looking to do One Skill Retake, those are the three requirements. Do IELTS on computer, do IELTS on computer at a test center that offers One Skill Retake, and then within the 60 days.
Okay, so I do my full IELTS test, I get my results. Let's say I need a 6.5 in all of my skills. So I get 6.5 for reading, 6.5 for listening, 6.5 for speaking, and let's say a 5.5 for writing. So I'm like, okay, I've just got one little thing I need to do. So I can at that point register to do just my writing test.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Fantastic.
And then what happens when we retake just your writing test? We'll assess your writing test across the same marking criteria as any other writing test. So the assessment is the same, the examiner conditions are exactly the same, the way you take the test is exactly the same, but then when you get your results, you get just the result for your writing, and the other skills will stay the same, so they carry over from your previous test.
Okay. And so I would then take my writing test again on computer. So it would be the IELTS on computer writing test.
Yes, but you just have to focus on the writing test in that case. So you don't have to worry about listening, reading, and speaking. You can solely focus on your writing test.
And so I need to book to take my writing test again within 60 days of the date that I took my initial test, or the date that I received my results?
The date of your initial test.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's a solid 2 months. So that is, it allows plenty of time for people that have work commitment or study commitment, or can only do the test on weekends or certain days of the month. So they have enough time to still book for a One Skill Retake test. It also allows people sufficient time to prepare for that One Skill Retake too.
Yeah, great. And we'll talk about how you might go about doing that.
Okay. I don't want to get ahead of things.
So how many times can I do this? Can I do it multiple times for one of the particular skills?
No, so One Skill Retake can only be taken once. So just as a little bit of an analogy, I suppose, why we developed IELTS One Skill Retake. I like to use the example of being a proficient driver. I think I'm a proficient driver. I'm not an expert driver, but I think I'm a reasonably good driver. Even as a reasonably good driver, if I have to reverse park my car, I may not get it in the spot first instance. So you move forward a little bit and you try again. And then you get it, right? Because I'm a good driver, but you still make that one mistake. It's like, oh, I didn't quite get it, didn't steer at the right angle, didn't get my car at the spot. And that's the same for One Skill Retake. We know that our test takers are good test takers. They've prepared for the test. They know English. They are at a particular level, but they just missed out on one key skill in their test. And it can happen for a number of reasons. You might have a little bit of a headache that develops during the test. You might get very anxious before your speaking test, or in your writing test. You spend too much time on task 1 and then ran out of time for task 2. So a number of different things that can happen during the test that impact on your performance. And just like the car, you need one extra try to get it right. And that is what One Skill Retake is for. It's really for those test takers that need that extra try to get it right and to show the organizations the level of English that they're really capable of.
Yeah, great. And I guess it would give you more confidence as a candidate as well when you book your test, knowing that you do have a bit of a safety net if, like you say, something does go wrong on test day.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as I said, the vast majority of test takers get their score for the first time because they've prepared, they know what the test is about, they're confident, they have practiced, etc. So they go into the test very confidently and they get the score that they need. But it's nice to know that you have that safety net behind you, sort of an insurance policy, right? Like,
yeah.
Again, I insure my car, hope nothing happens, but if it does, you have that safety net.
Yeah. We've had a question come in about where you would take the test. So if you, let's say you register at a particular test centre for your first IELTS test, do you need to register for your One Skill Retake at the same test centre?
No. So you can retake One Skill Retake at any other centre that offers One Skill Retake. Okay. So a test taker that does their full IELTS test here in Melbourne and then moves to Sydney and wants to do One Skill Retake, they can do One Skill Retake at an eligible test centre in Sydney. More extreme, someone that does One Skill Retake overseas at a test centre that offers One Skill Retake, then travels to Australia or goes back home on a holiday, they can also do One Skill Retake. I mean, generally, you'd probably go back to the same test centre because you know where it is, etc. But at least the option is there.
So that feels like a good time to talk about where this is currently available. So you're currently running IELTS One Skill Retake at centres across Australia?
Correct. So we offer One Skill Retake in all key locations in Australia. I have to go through Australia. We offer it in Perth, in Adelaide, in Hobart, Tasmania, in Melbourne, in Sydney, Brisbane, Cairns, and I think a few other smaller locations.
Wollongong on the list.
Oh, Wollongong on the list as well, and yeah, a few locations. But it's available across Australia. Yeah.
Right. And you've got some exciting news about India as well, I believe.
Yeah, I just saw a chat come up too, and someone says, "Is it available in India?" It is available in India at the moment. Don't ask me to go geographically around India to name all the test centres. But if you're interested in that, I would recommend contacting your local test centre to see if One Skill Retake is available there.
I think you said there are 37 centres in India that are currently running One Skill Retake.
Yeah, so that's the last information that I received from our team in India.
Fantastic.
So really exciting, obviously, for our test takers in India, that it's also available to them, and that they can use this as that safety net that you said earlier too.
Yeah, and will it be rolling out in any other locations across the globe?
Across the globe, yes, for sure. So obviously, we're looking to make this available to all our test takers as soon as possible. We know from our experience in Australia, the people that I've spoken to here at our test centre in Melbourne, they're really excited that we offer One Skill Retake. They're also happy, as you said, Andy, with that safety net that it offers. Yeah. So we want to be able to offer that to test takers across the world. So after India, we're also looking to roll this out across Southeast Asia, across the Pacific, in New Zealand, all countries where IELTS is operating. So hopefully by the end of the year. And I know that it's still a couple of months away, but considering that we have hundreds of test centres across the world, it will be available at a test centre very close to our audience in the very near future.
Fantastic. And I guess another question that probably everyone wants to know about is the cost for this. So how much do you have to pay to take the One Skill Retake? So
in Australia, the fee for One Skill Retake is $259, but roughly it'll be 2/3 of the price of a full IELTS test.
Great.
So it is. It's also more accessible to do one skill retake.
Yeah, for sure. And are students still able to do the inquiry on results for their one skill retake? Yes,
yeah, of course. So with the inquiry on results, or a remark or a recheck, or just getting IELTS to double check your results again, that is available for the full IELTS test. It has always been available for the full IELTS test. If one of our test takers believes that the result they receive on their test report form does not reflect their performance on test day, they feel they did better on test day than the score they received, they can ask us for a remark or an inquiry on results. And for a full IELTS test, they can do that for one skill or 4 skills. The fee is exactly the same. And that has always been in place. Now with one skill retake, they can also request a remark on that one skill. So it gets a little bit complex here, and bear with me. And if you're not quite sure how this works, let us know. But if I do my test, my IELTS test today, and I get my results, and I don't feel that the results that I received reflect how I worked on test day, I can request a remark for my listening, reading, writing, and speaking. I do my remark, and if it comes back unchanged, I can book my one skill retake, because I really need, as you said, I need to get my writing score up to a certain level. Now, if I still don't get the score that I wanted, I can then also request a remark for my one skill writing. My advice though, it does cost money. And with an inquiry on results, if it's successful, you'll get your money back. But talk to your teacher to make sure that this is right for you, because there might be other options. You might have to prepare a little bit for a particular skill to get the result that you want. It's the same advice that we give test takers. Don't do IELTS over and over and over again. Take a pause, breathe, talk to a teacher, make sure that you're ready for your next step.
Yeah, great advice. And just so we're super clear about what the one skill retake is, if I do my test and I get my reading score and I get my speaking score, but I don't get my listening score and I don't get my writing score, can I retake both of those?
No.
Right.
So it's one skill retake. So you can retake one skill once.
Right.
You can't retake writing and then retake listening.
Yeah.
In that case, you will have to do a full IELTS test again.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. So I think maybe let's talk a little bit now about how students might want to think about preparing to take a one skill retake again. Take it again.
I know, right?
Retaking going on in that sentence. I guess, would you agree that you really want to be just focusing on that one skill for the time that you have to prepare for the one skill retake?
For sure. I've always said, and we know this at IELTS 2, the test takers that prepare for their test score better in their IELTS test. That's the reality. You have to prepare for any exam, and you also have to prepare for your IELTS test. So for your full test, prepare. If you have to do a one skill retake, prepare for one skill retake too.
Yeah.
And don't rely on random YouTube videos that you find all over the place. Actually talk to people that know how to prepare for their test.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you.
Like
no,
E2.
No, but talk to a teacher, and that is really important. The people that have trained, that know how to prepare you for one skill retake.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess just to touch on some of the things that we can offer students who are preparing for a one skill retake, if it's writing or speaking that you're preparing for, at E2 we can give you feedback on your assessment. So we can give you feedback on writing assessments that you do with us or speaking assessments that you do with us. And just getting that one-on-one feedback or that detailed feedback from an expert teacher here is just going to help you pinpoint those things that you need to improve on, that are the reason why you didn't get the score that you wanted the first time around. And I think that's so helpful for students when they're, you know, under a little bit of time pressure. 60 days is actually, I think, a really nice amount of time to be preparing for one test, because you can be really focused. And with listening and speaking as well, you know, we've got heaps of practice activities that students can do to prepare for the specific question types that we have in the IELTS exam. So yeah, definitely talk to E2, talk to a teacher, see what's available, because it's definitely going to help, I think.
Yeah, and especially that what you just mentioned in terms of getting a little bit of feedback on your performance, or understanding where you can improve, is really helpful, because we know IELTS is not a test that was designed to give you individual feedback. It's like a university exam. You pass, or you know, you don't pass in your university exam, and then you go to your next unit or your next year at university. It's the same with IELTS. With IELTS, we'll give you a score, and you either meet the entry requirements or not. But we don't really give you that feedback. The test was not designed for that, but teachers can give you that feedback. And particularly if you're, what you said earlier, you're at a 6.5 and you need to go to a 7, a teacher can work with you, and they can identify little things in your writing or speaking that can have a significant impact on the way you perform during your test. And you know this too as a teacher, and you probably, you know, teach your students this too, but it could be little things that they pay attention to during their IELTS test that can really improve them by 0.5 or a bad score if they just fix up that one part of the test.
That's right. And often I think the problem with preparing alone often is that you don't actually know where you're going wrong. Because if you knew where you were going wrong, you wouldn't be making the mistakes in the first place. So I think getting some feedback from a teacher, from an expert who is able to look at the marking criteria and really understand what that means the examiners are looking for, and then show you where in your writing or where in your speaking you need to just meet those assessment criteria, whether it's a structural thing, maybe you're not, you know, maybe your paragraphs aren't flowing as well as they could be, or maybe you just need to improve your vocabulary just so it's a bit more precise, a bit more accurate, or a wider range of grammar that you're using. I think getting those teachers' eyes across what you're writing or what you're saying in your speaking exam, and getting that specific feedback is super helpful. Definitely.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I guess another thing that I'd be thinking about is just making sure that you really understand the requirement of the exam and the best ways to approach each of the questions. And one of the things that I really like about our IELTS course at E2 is our method videos. So we have a method for every single type of question that it's possible to get on the IELTS test, and a suggestion of how students should be approaching those questions in order to be most efficient, most effective, and get the answer right, I guess, on test day. And I think that's, again, really helpful, because you just might not know that you're not doing true, false, not given questions in the right way. And we can help kind of just let you know that that's what you need to be focused on.
Yeah, it's really useful to be able to fine-tune those skills that our test takers already have, but they need to focus on a little bit more, or understanding some of the key differences. And I think there are no templated answers or responses, but templates are very important to help guide you through a particular structure. Like, we all know how the speaking test is conducted, and if you don't know, it's really important that you look at this with E2 and get an understanding of how the test is structured and conducted. And then when you know that, you can have a particular focus on how to approach the speaking test. Like, how should you answer some questions, or if you get a particular question, how can you start your response and how can you engage with the examiner and still be interesting and focus on the topic? So, and those are skills that you can train and you can learn for and prepare for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can improve in 60 days. I think that's a really important message as well to let students know it is possible if you are focused and if you prepare well with a teacher. Absolutely, you can get that score that you want.
And I think you mentioned the assessment criteria, and that is, it's unique to IELTS. We're very transparent in the way we assess. So if you look at the band descriptors for writing and speaking, it's all out there. The examiner will look at exactly the same document and they will assess you according to those, what we call band descriptors or assessment criteria or IELTS criteria, however you want to call them. They're exactly the same as what the examiner would look for. But sometimes the language is a little bit difficult to understand. If you look at the band score or the criteria for an IELTS 6 and you need an IELTS 7, my advice is always look at the document, have a chat with the teacher with that document in hand and say, I scored an IELTS 6, I need to go to an IELTS 7, I've looked at the band descriptors, but can you help me with my vocabulary, or can you help me with my structure or whatever?
Yeah, fantastic. We will take some questions in a moment, but just before we do that, just to wrap up, I need to let everybody know that it's June, it's the end of the financial year, and we actually have our end of financial year sale on at E2 at the moment. It's ending very soon, so you need to get in quick. But if you purchase a package with us before the 30th of June, you will get access to all of our IELTS practice questions for IELTS General or for IELTS Academic, all of our live classes and our recorded classes, a mock test, the assessments with the expert feedback from our teachers. We have a code for you. It's IELTS 25, IELTS 25. And if you pop that in at the checkout when you go to pay for your package, you will have access to 25% off all of our courses, which is a fantastic deal. So please take advantage of it. It's only live until midnight on June the 30th. So get in quick. Okay, Georgie, questions. Do we have some good questions that we need to address before we wrap up?
Yes, I think we do have some good questions. So one of the questions are just about how the results will look like. So will they be coming as one document, and on the full, will it mention that one part of the test result was retaken?
Great question.
That is a great question, and maybe I should have explained that a little bit earlier. But when you take your full IELTS test, and if you've done IELTS before, you know that you'll get a test report form, what we call our results scorecard, or your IELTS results. So on your test report form, you will see a score for listening, reading, writing, speaking, and an overall band score. So that's been the same way for years and years. Now, with One Skill Retake, you get a second test report form. So the second test report form will have the one skill that you've retaken, so the new score that you see for your One Skill Retake test, and the other scores will carry over from your original test.
Yep.
So you'll get two test report forms, and it's up to you to decide which one you want to use. So you might want to use the original one, or you might want to use the One Skill Retake test if your scores have improved on that one. There is a note on the second test report form that you get, the One Skill Retake test report form, to specify which skill was retaken. So it is really important that you also check with the organization that accepts your IELTS results to check whether they accept One Skill Retake. As an example, here in Australia, it's already widely accepted. So the Department of Home Affairs accepts it in Australia for visa purposes. A lot of universities accept it. professional organizations for engineering and accounting and the healthcare sector, all accepted for those that need it for professional registration if you want to work here. But it is important that you check that. If you're interested to see how the actual test report form looks like, I can share a link with Georgie, and she might be able to put that in the chat, so you can have a look at what the original test report form looks like and what the IELTS One Skill Retake example test report form looks like.
And just another question here, which possibly other people might be thinking about is, so I take the IELTS test, I don't get my one score that I need in one of the skills, so I do the one skill retake. I unfortunately still don't get the score I need, so I retake the whole test again. Can I then do another one skill retake?
No, so you can only do one skill retake once per full IELTS test. So if you do your IELTS test, you do one skill retake, you still didn't get the score that you wanted, you will need to book another IELTS test. You can't repeat the one skill retake.
But then if I do that full test again, I could then do another one skill retake after that if I wanted to.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And can you just, Vincent, just for people who might have missed it at the very beginning of the webinar, can you just tell us again what the process is for registering for the one skill retake?
Yes, for sure. So generally, and if you're based in Australia, you may have registered through a new registration system, and you can access your results online. What it looks like if one skill retake is available, when you look at your results online, it'll have a little retake button over your scores. So that's how you register for one skill retake. Once your results have been released, you can apply for your one skill retake test if you want. Again, I know, right? I know, right? It's like booking a flight and changing your flight. There's usually a button right there. What is important, though, is that you book your test with a test center that offers one skill retake. If you book your full test at a center that does not offer one skill retake, you won't be able to view that little button that allows you to retake your test. So when you book, just check that that is available. As I said, it will be available across more centers around Australia, around the world, very, very soon. So a lot of people should be able to have access to this.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think we've answered most of the questions in the chat.
Yeah, there was one that someone had a question which Vincent's just covered, asking if one skill retake covers the skills assessment for becoming a teacher, and as it's accepted for migration purposes, then yes, it will.
But you should always check, right, Vincent?
You should always check, because teacher registration in Australia, for example, differs state by state. So always check with the teacher registration body that you want to apply for to make sure that they accept one skill retake. But it's not only one skill retake, it's also knowing what scores you need to have to be able to successfully register as a teacher or a lawyer or apply for your visa. You want to know the scores and the requirements before you do the test.
So always check with the institution you're going to study with, or the organization that you want to join as a teacher, or
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that link to Georgie. That's on that page. You can download an example of an original test report form and a one skill retake test report form, so you know what it looks like, the differences.
Fantastic.
That's great. And then just for students in Australia that want to book the one skill retake, they do that normally through the website booking. Not sure if that was covered already. Yeah,
so they will just book a normal IELTS test, their full IELTS test. When they've done their full IELTS test, then when they check their results, they can retake one skill if they want to.
Fantastic.
But before you do that, when you get your results, sorry, I know that we're almost at the end of this webinar, but when you do that, practice and prepare before you book your One Skill Retake. Or you can book it and then you know your timeline, so you can discuss with your teacher, check with E2, and if you do that, in the next 3-4 days,
Yep.
25% off. But yeah, no, it is really important that you do that, that you prepare for your test, because you want to give yourself the best chance to get the score that you need.
That's right. And I think, you know, that bears repeating. We want to help. We want to help. Teachers want to help students pass their IELTS test. So talk to a teacher, because you will get honest advice and feedback about where you're going wrong and what you need to do to improve, because we want you to pass.
I know, right? So do we.
Absolutely. I guess the last question, I know we already covered this, but someone just mentioned that they didn't get the answer. The cost for the One Skill Retake, I think you mentioned, Vincent, it's about 2/3 of the normal full IELTS price, right?
Yes. So obviously that differs a little bit across the world, depending on currencies, exchange rates, but it's roughly 2/3 of the price of an IELTS test. So in Australia, for example, an IELTS test costs $410, and then One Skill Retake is $259. Now it's good, $259. Yeah. So about 2/3.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Vincent. That's awesome.
Okay, well, I think that about wraps us up, Georgie, this afternoon. So
It does.
I guess I should thank Vincent for joining us. It's been so fabulous to hear from you all about IELTS One Skill Retake, and I know it's going to be a really popular with students. So thank you to IELTS for getting this happening. I think it's going to be very valuable for students.
Yeah, it's really
And thank you, Andy and Georgie, for helping students prepare for their IELTS test. I can't stress enough how important quality preparation is, and you provide that. So thanks so much for helping our test takers prepare.
Thanks so much, Vincent. That's awesome. So yeah, if you haven't started your free trial with E2, you can feel free, and you want to learn a bit more about us, you can feel free to go to e2testprep.com. You can start a free trial or take a look at some packages if you're interested to know more about them.
And that information is in the chat as well, Georgie, isn't it? I think I saw it there at some point.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Pop up the code as well, again, just so everyone knows. Beautiful. All right. Well, thanks everyone so much for joining. And yeah, we hope to hear from you all soon.
Yeah.
Have a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are.
Bye, everyone.